So at this point, we managed to put, in the first 5 years after the Civil War, within 10 years, I'm sorry, we managed to put 7 black men, 2 senators, and 5 representatives in Congress. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't know that. And there are some very powerful speeches that were made then in the fight for civil rights. One of those speeches you're about to hear is by Healis. And Chris is reading John Rainey's speech. You can see it in your program, where he's been insulted by a Southern Democrat and takes exception to that. And he makes this wonderful speech that was so good it drove that Democrat senator out of the House. He could not report. He thought that it was such a fine speech that somebody else wrote it. And it wasn't a written speech. And you're about to hear that delivered now.
The remarks made by the gentleman from New York in relation to the colored people of South Carolina escaped my hearing, as I was in the rear of the hall when they were made. And I did not know that any utterance of that kind had emanated from him. I have always entertained a high regard for the gentleman from New York, because I believed him to be a useful member of the House. He is a gentleman of fine talent and education. And I have thought heretofore that he would certainly be charitable toward a race of people who have never enjoyed the same advantages that he has. If the colored people of South Carolina had accorded the same advantages, if they had had the same wealth and surroundings which the gentleman from New York had, they would have shown to this nation that their color was no obstacle to their holding position, political or otherwise. Not having had these advantages, we cannot at this present time compete with the favored race of this country. But perhaps, if our lives were spared, and if the gentleman from New York and other gentlemen on that side of the House will only accord to us right and justice, we shall show to them that we can be useful, intelligent citizens of this country. But if they will continue to prescribe us, if they will continue to cultivate prejudice against us, if they will continue to decry the Negro and crush him underfoot, then you cannot expect the Negro to rise while the Democrats are trampling upon him and his rights. We ask you, sir, to do as the Negro as you ought to do by injustice. If the Democrats are such staunch friends of the Negro, why is it that when the propositions are offered, here and elsewhere, looking to the elevation of the colored race and the extension of right and justice to them, do the Democrats array themselves in such unbroken phalanx and vote against every such measure? You, gentlemen of that side of the House, have voted against all recent amendments of the Constitution and the laws enforcing the same. Why did you do it? I answer, because those measures had a tendency to give the poor Negro his just rights, and because they proposed to knock off his shackles and give him freedom of speech, freedom of action, and the opportunity of education, that he might elevate himself to the dignity of manhood. Now you come to us and say that you are our best friends? We could look upon you as such? We would that your votes as recorded in the globe from day to day could only demonstrate it. But your votes, your actions, and your constant cultivation of your cherished prejudices prove that the Negroes of the entire country, that the Democrats are in opposition to them. And if the Democrats could sway our race, would have no foothold here. Now, sir, I have not time to vindicate fully the course of action of the colored people of South Carolina. We are certainly a majority there. I admit we are at 2 to 1. Sir, I ask this House, I ask the country, I ask white men, I ask Democrats, I ask Republicans whether the Negroes have presumed to take improper advantage of the majority they hold over that state by disregarding the interests of the minority. They have not. Our convention, which met in 1864 and in which the Negroes were in the large majority, did not pass any prescriptive or disfranchisement act, but adopted a liberal constitution, securing alike equal rights to all citizens, white and black, male and female, as far as possible. Mark you, we did not discriminate, although we had the majority. Our Constitution towers up in its majesty with provisions for equal protection of all classes and citizens. Notwithstanding our majority there, we have never attempted to deprive any man in the state of its rights and immunities to which he is entitled under the Constitution of his government. You cannot point to me a single act passed by our legislature at any time which had a tendency to reflect upon or oppress any white citizen of South Carolina. You cannot show me one enactment by which the majority in our state have undertaken to crush the white men because the latter were in the minority. I say to you, gentlemen of the Democratic Party, that I want you to deal justly with the people composing of my race. I am here representing a Republican constituency made up of white and colored men. I say to you, deal with us justly. Be charitable towards us. An opportunity will soon present itself when we contest whether or not you on that side of the house are the best friends of the oppressed and ill-treated Negro race. When the Civil Rights Bill comes to you, when the bill comes up on its merits asking you to give civil rights to the Negro, I will then see who our best friends are on that side of the house. I will say to the gentleman from New York that I am sorry I am constrained to make these remarks. I wish to say to him that I do not mind that what he may have said against the Negroes of South Carolina. Neither his friendship nor his enmity will change the sentiment of the loyal men of that state. We are determined to stand by this government. We are determined to judiciously and wisely use the prerogative conferred upon us by the Republican Party. The Democratic Party may rule us. They may court us and try to get us to worship at their shrine. But I will tell the gentlemen that we are Republicans by instinct, and we will be Republicans as long as God will allow our proper census to hold sway over us. Prior to this experience that I've had, it's meant to me that when I came into this program, I was thinking like, oh, Black history. Maybe it won't be so bad. But then I came into it, and I figured out we were going to be reading speeches, and we ended up actually doing research on these people, hearing quotes that are very powerful, and using very hard words. But I think this experience would be good for anybody that would like to participate in Black history.